Learn Rabbi Michael-ben-Pesach Portnaar. Baderech el Chasulam, on the way to the ladder. Part 1, Lesson 6. In the Hebrew language, articles and prepositions are often coupled at the word they are connected to. In the last lesson, we were ended at page Bet 2, second column, first paragraph. The subject was zivug dehaka, collided merging. It is collided because two opposite strengths collide to each other. The strength of malchut, din, is rejected, and the strength that comes in is rachamim, mercy. First, we thought someone could be a carrier of these qualities, but now we know nobody is merciful. Mercy is namely a quality of the light that enters in a kli, in a human being, through the attitude of man to come in agreement with the higher. First, there is always rejection, and after, the light enters. Of course, nothing enters, but when you open yourself, you have the feeling the light is entering you. It is therefore only a question of attitude and working at yourself. And that is the secret of the sea made by Shlomo, King Solomon, which is standing on 12 oxen, because these 9 sphirot, the lower of her, of Malchut, the 9 bottom sphirot, they fell in Bria, as mentioned above, and have undergone correction, installed themselves in the secret of the 12 oxen. The 9 bottom sphirot of Nukwa, Lili, are fallen in Bria, a small condition. Later we will see why something is not perfect right from the start. We have already said that white is Keter, stays above, and in the 9 bottom there is red, unclean forces with ours fallen to below. And here he is telling us something more with proof from the Torah, because the Zohar is connected with the Torah. The upper Sphira, Keter, stays in Atzilut. In Kings 2 it is written, King Solomon, who built the first temple, built a sea that stood on 12 oxen. Just as in Amsterdam or another place where a lot of water is, where is built on pile foundations or pillars, and those pillars are 12 oxen. And to Solomon was revealed what the meaning was, because he had built the temple, and the temple is the Malchut. The temple where all the good comes from. Everyone goes to a temple to receive the light. The temple is Nukva, and in the small condition are only the sea, 1 sphira, and white, above, stands in Atzilut. Suddenly, he speaks about 12 oxen, and not about 9 sphirot. Why? We will see later. The point of Keter, the small point of Keter that remains in Atzilut, that remained in Atzilut, as the last station of Atzilut, that is the secret. Hu Sod means secret, but also the essence. But in Zohar, it is secret, because you have to penetrate to make yourself receptive. The sea, the 1 sphira, Keter, is a parallel with the sea built by Solomon, that is standing above them from above. And altogether they are named 13 leaves. First we had 10, 1 above and 9 below. We also have 13 leaves of the lily, and the subject of the division of these 10 sphirot from her. From Malchut unto the secret of 13 will be explained later in the commentary Views of Hasulam. That is an extra commentary in which Yehuda Ashlag has written too. Later on we will see. There comes a comment to explain certain concepts. We have seen 1 sphira is above and 9 below. Here he is telling us about the sea, corresponding with the 1 sphira. The sea is above, the 12 oxen are below, and they support the one. Zohar brings this forwards to create a feeling in us, and also to make a connection with the Torah. I have often read this passage, and only Zohar tells us what it is all about. King Solomon had built the temple in this way. Above, he had made the sea, and below, he had placed the pillars to support the bottom of the sea. Why he did this, we didn't know. Only Zohar explains it to us. The temple is nothing more than malchut, surplus, the other higher strengths. But especially from malchut, we receive everything. Malchut is the temple, and Solomon showed us it is the same structure as at the creating of the worlds, 1 above and 9 below. Why this is, we will learn from Zohar. And see here the light. Mochin is also a kind of light. Why there are several words for lights, we will see later. Moach also means brains. From Gadlut, the large condition, in were all the 10 Sfirot radiate and experienced. From Nukva, Malchut, the whole meaning is to get Nukva so far that she obtains Gadlut, so she can receive the light in his full glory, because then she can irradiate it to the lower. That there is in them a shining of Chokmah. We will learn only Malchut does need Chokmah. Everything is focused on to give Malchut Chokmah, wisdom. King Solomon was named the wisest man ever. Therefore he had to build the temple, because the wisest means that the Malchut, in his time, in his temple, all 10 Sfirot were radiating. After all the sins and misery, it is not possible to say the same in our time. It has to be in this way. But din. Severity would manifest itself never so hard in every man and in history as it has been. Of course, it was the intention there would be 2 strengths in the universe, because both are needed. But the human being has committed certain sins through bringing down the wisdom from above to oneself to draw it, by wanting to know so eagerly, and that is the misery. To know is good, but knowing must be in such a way that it does not break the sense doors as they were created. If man wants to know, he spares no trouble or expense, then he will come to misery. This is such an important lesson for us. You must have the attitude to want to know. Your bad inclination stimulates you to go reading and read more and more, because it lives by seducing you to go reading. Your bad inclination profits from this. We will learn how man can bring himself in agreement with the laws of the universe. In them, in that Mochin, the light Nukva receives a shining of Chokmah. Malchut has to receive. He's saying, not in full glory, only a spark. In A'a, Ari Hanpin, there is the complete Chokhmah. That's very high. Man cannot receive Chokhmah, wisdom, in its full glory. Adam tried to draw the wisdom to himself, to below from the Creator. But the intention was, however, by doing corrections he would pull himself above. There he would receive, and then ascend to below. And not to draw everything from above to below. He had a little wisdom, Chokhmah, and drew to below because there was no place to take in more. If we receive too much, the kelim will break, the sense doors as they were established from the beginning of the creation, from his birth. And what he did, many generations after him did the same. In a way, they deepened his sins. The temptation for to know more, is enormous, because we always feel a kind of lack, and we think by to know more and more we can compensate, that we will experience the 10 Sferot in ourselves, that we will receive fulfillment. And all this is the whispering of the snake. He wants that we draw everything to ourselves, wherever we are. Take this, take that. And when it cannot receive pleasure, then it is about knowledge. Go to read this, go to that place. A spark of Chokmah, that is a kosher way of receiving. then it is possible for Malchut to stay in harmony with all the strengths. We too cannot draw Chokmah to us. She, the Mochin, is drawn to the secret. Mi Sod means secret or essence. It comes from the word Masach, to draw. And from this word comes the word Messiah, what means to draw, to suck. From 13 names that are named 13 qualities of mercy, we do not understand anything. So be patient. We will experience. When we are speaking of a condition, we speak about the receiver, the Kli, and that what can be received, light. The 10 Sfirot do receive. We want so gladly to receive in our world, but we must have a place for it. In our prayer, we can ask for light, but do we have a place for the light? Therefore, we must do some effort. There is a book that writes about people who have won a lot of money in a lottery, example, and what is the result? It hasn't gone well with them. They couldn't handle a large sum of money. A man has to build up his richness slowly, then he can handle it. But when someone receives suddenly an enormous amount of money, it is the same with other receiving. First we had 13 leaves of the lily, and then the Sea of Solomon, which is similar with the Keter of Nukva in the Atzilut. And in Bria there stands 12 oxen. And now he's saying there are 13 qualities of mercy. And that, what is written, is also Knesset, Yisrael, collection of Israel, the Malchut of Atzilut, who all the light, all the strengths has collected in oneself, in the Gadlut, is in full glory. He draws a comparison between 13 leaves and Knesset Israel to give us some feeling. Sometimes he gives us a quote, or he tells us about the Temple of Solomon. We receive a new dimension in this way. We get an invisible amount of various impressions. And these impressions slowly build up our kilim, and in this enormous light can enter. If there is no interest for the spiritual, then there is no kilim. Some of us have only one aim, to get result, and others are trying to understand everything with their head. When there is no kilim, they cannot receive. You want to have it while you do not know what it is, and what can you do with it? There is a law that says you get no more from above than you can receive, that it will not break you. It is a kind of a defending mechanism to protect you, unless you are so stubborn and so foolish that you say it doesn't matter, and you take it. It is written, when someone comes to purify oneself, he will be helped. It is also written that the one who comes to dirty oneself, they will help him with that too. This is also coming from above. You must not see something bad comes from above, but the person here downstairs, here, is opening all his canals for dirtying himself. He draws all the dirt to himself. He himself is the reason for all his misery. It is to purify or to dirty yourself, one way or the other. In the spiritual, there is no middle course. Your attitude must be perfect. Then you get the most of it. There is in her 13 forgivenesses of mercy. Forgiveness means that there is a repentance. Repentance is you turn yourself to the light and not to the little devil, to your own ego, to the Malchut of the Malchut. And then you will experience a light that in a way brings the true repentance. All the attentions of the unclean forces leave your observation. Nothing sticks at us. We let the unclean forces suck at us. That is not so bad, but we have to work to receive a pure kilim that will give us everyday marvelous experiences. We will come more and more to fulfillment. And the essence, the main issue of what Rabbi Hizkiah, the whole paragraph is brought in his name, wants to teach us. In this comparison of the lily under the thorns in Knesset Israel, Rabbi Hizkiah wants to show the comparison between the lily under the thorns, the lily in a small condition, and Knesset Israel, that is in a large condition. Which comparison can we make now? Nukva has one Sphira in Atzilut, and 9 are below, and that is lily under the thorns. Knesset Israel, Malchut, kingdom, has 10 Sphirot. In religion is also spoken of the kingdom of heaven, and that is the Malchut. Were we talking about yet? We will learn how all the qualities of the kingdom of heavens behave themselves, and through this we can come into the kingdom of heavens. It is said it is difficult to enter the kingdom, to experience. You can compare it with someone who is very rich, rich at his own ego, and for him it is very difficult to escape by the skin of one's teeth. He can't enter the kingdom because to enter you need a place deep in yourself, a kind of place where all the unclean forces are at the gate to protect the Malchut. The Malchut of Atzilut is the kingdom of heavens. And here we find din, severity, and that's the stumbling block. For evildoers, this is the stumbling block because if they try to draw the light to themselves, richness too, and so, then din, severity, surrounds the Malchut. We can read in the Torah the story of Adam, who was chased away from paradise. We will see the Creator hadn't chased away Adam. What is paradise? Paradise is Atzilut, the place without unclean forces. Before the entrance was placed an angel, a certain strength, din, with a sword that cuts 2 ways. No one can enter. Here is an enormous secret how to enter the kingdom of heavens. It is written, and in religion too, that a wealthy man can't escape by the skin of one's teeth. It is the same as with a camel. A camel has 2 large humps at his back. He isn't smooth. He has a lot of unnecessary things. A camel has, as it were, a bank account for 2 weeks at his back. In Torah, everything is about the spiritual. Why a camel and not an elephant? Because a camel saves. He doesn't live only today. He counts at his supplies that is behind him and not in front of him. It is said that it is difficult to come closer to the Creator because the closer you near Him, the heavier you feel yourself. And when you approach the Malchut of Atzilut, you meet, as it were, the strength named din, to protect the entrance of the kingdom of heavens. When someone nears with the wrong intention, an evildoer who has collect a lot of material and now he wants the spiritual too, such a person who is in the condition of maliciousness, in the condition of because slowly anything will come to fulfillment, then by din that surrounds the Malchut, the guard of the Malchut, he will be punished or he punished himself. But for those who want to bring themselves in agreement with the laws of the universe, the same strengths, din, which surround the Malchut, build up gates. Gates because before you enter the throne room, just as in our world, there are many gates. It is the same for those who work at oneself. For din, the severe strengths are building up, as it were, the gates, which bring him to the kingdom of heavens. So for them, it is positive. These strengths don't say to you, please enter, dear child, or as Lazarus, what are you, sweet? Not in this way. You have to conquer, and then you get the feeling as if you are brought on the wings. Some do ask themselves, why so difficult? Why has the Creator made this so harsh? Why do we have to earn first? First of all, the one who is an evildoer, he has to experience from the inner punishment. Punishment is needed. There must be the feeling of someone is beating him to make him to correct himself. In a way, it is a self-corrected system installed by the Creator himself. When there is still a shortcoming in his behavior, he gets an irritated feeling. He feels stitches. Why? This is needed for him to strive to harmony, for to go further. If not, we would be children forever. We have to work at ourselves. For a professor in humanities at a university, it is the same fulfillment, the experience of the spiritual as for the common worker. Only the brains of the professor will be a stand in the way for him. They will stand in the way. You have to go, namely, above your brains, and it's very difficult for scientists who have built the earthly kilim to give this up, to experience the spiritual. Knowledge has brought death in our world. When the time is ready, we will learn. So Rabbi Hizkiah draws a comparison between lilies under the thorns, Malchut in the small condition, with Knesset Israel. How can you compare a small condition with a large condition? To teach us everything what is in the Nukva in her large condition is necessarily to find in her, opposite her, aspect of preparation and willingness, at the beginning of her full growing, that is to say, in the condition of Katnut. Here he is telling us the large condition is not right there. You don't become a millionaire suddenly. First you have to sell papers, etc., as a preparation for the large condition. The small condition of Nukwa is necessary as preparation for her large condition. Today, it was the day of Gedalia, a fasting day. It is good to fast now and then if you do not whine. For me it is hard to fast, but on the other hand, I had a very productive day. You aren't busy with material things. What I have done this day. Without fasting, it would not be possible. It is good to fast, but when you lose your devotion, it is not good. Everything must be special, and not only because it is written, what you make of it, that's the point. So the small condition is necessary as a preparation for the large condition. If you want to climb a ladder, you have to look, i.e. at the top manager. How does he make things work? And slowly you learn to do the same. And that is what is written, opposite the white and the red of Katnut. Lily had 2 colors, white in Keter, and 9 bottom were red in Katnut. He is still telling now, opposite the white and the red of the Katnut, whereby 1 Sphira is in Atzilut, and 9 were fallen in Bria. It comes out of her, originates from her, severity and mercy in Gadlut. We say there are 2 strengths in the creation. Where do they come from? They come from Malchut, as a lily. Out of the 1 Sphira, white, in Atzilut, comes mercy, and from the bottom 9, severity, din. Both are necessary. Of course, not in the way we had experienced in history, all the slaughters and misery. That was not the meaning. It hadn't to be this way. If was necessary because of the consequences of our behavior. Adam had sinned, and there were Kabbalists in this time. A lot of taboos are broken. They say anything is possible. Even the sin of Adam was in the plan of the creation. The consequence of his sin, however, was necessary. Din, severity, and rachamim, mercy, is of course necessary. They are brought in the world so we can come to our development, to our fulfillment. The Creator is the absolute quality of absolute altruism, which we experience everywhere. And that is all we can say about the Creator. He wants that we are the same as He. At the time Adam had sinned, those 2 strengths were already there, but not in this amount. There was little din, just enough to give a little bit fire to the human being, to give some taste of existence, like soup. Soup needs salt and pepper. The salt and pepper tastes? No. But when we put it in the soup, yummy. Only din doesn't taste, but together with mercy, it makes a good soup. The Creator doesn't want the soup become bitter, but if we taste the soup, we wouldn't like it. This is the consequence of the sin of Adam and of Cain and others. That's why the soup is bitter. It doesn't come from the Creator. There's too much din. In Gadlut, there is din and rachamim. Anything what has been in the small condition exists in the large condition too. It is the same with business. At the beginning, you must invest a lot. At the start, you have the idea. You only lose till the moment we call the break-even point, the 0 point. And after that, it goes upwards. How can we bear this? Most of the men consider their initial losses as real losses. It is absolutely structural. It is impossible to pass the break-even point to the good if you not go first below that point. It is the same in the spiritual. And opposite 13 leaves of Katnut comes out of her the Malchut, 13 qualities of mercy in Gadlut. Malchut at her full growing is first Katnut, and after she becomes Gadlut, whereby she maintains the 2 strengths of the last condition. There exists something more, whereby is drawn a comparison with the 13 leaves of the lily. In Katnut, she has 13 leaves, and in Gadlut there comes out 13 qualities of Rachamim. Only from Rachamim, only from light that brings the good, and not from the din, the side where the problems come from. And he, Rabbi Hizkiah, a lot of reference will pass whereby Zohar or Yehuda Ashlag brings us in confusion. To what do they refer? He, she, it gives enormous problems to reveal this. Who is he? Who is she? For a Kabbalist, the gender is not a constant factor. On the one hand, he says he, and on the other hand, he says and uses she. Everything is to quality. Sometimes an entity is female, receptive, a corrective position, and the Kabbalist names it female. In another situation where he uses the same, he names it male. For example, nukva, female. When she is corrected, malchut, then she gives to a lower, and she is in the quality of the giver, the male. To give is a male condition, and to receive is a female condition. In this way, the universe is built up. The right side wants to give, and the left side wants to receive. Both aren't perfect. Of course, only giving is beautiful, but then you are too good for this world. The world is not made in this way. The world is a learning process. At the end, you must have both strengths, experience in yourself din and rachamim. Rachamim must have the upper hand, not in an artificial way, only as strength. We must feel both strengths. This means that you become a human being. It doesn't matter of what gender you are. If you experience the right side, then you want to give, the male principle. The left side in the human being is female. Every human being, even the biggest macho and the greatest sex idol, have to experience both sides in themselves. In this way, the world is been made. Only then a human being can come to fulfillment. In this way, a man and a woman can have contact on equal grounds. A human being has therefore two sides in oneself, male and female, right and left. When you are a man and you want to be a man, push the male side in you. You can't come to fulfillment. If you think only at male things, it won't be anything. It is not in the laws of the universe. It is a fabrication of man himself, although it is a marvelous idea. What we're doing here is an ultimate personal process, no group happening. It is unique. What I tell you is not from me. Only if you work in an ultimate personal way at yourself, you will come to fulfillment, and not through groups or other artificial ways whereby you feel relaxation. And he, Rabbi Hizkiah, brings it here to learn the scriptures lying before us, to explain the two orders of Katnut and Gadlut. These poems that are in front of us explain, with all their marvelous images, nothing else than the condition of Katnut and Gadlut. It is an enormous help for us because every situation we have to go through in ourselves, all the facets, small and then the large, one and the large one, till you correct another facet in yourself. Every facet is related to everything, which are in use at the shining of Nukva. When Zohar or the Kabbalah speaks about something that is created in the world Olam Atzalut, we use the verbal Atzalut, emanation or radiation. Katnut and Gadlut are used at the emanation of Nukva. To continue on, Holech means walking, and when Holech is added at a verb, a process is indicating a continuing process. So too, Elokim, from here, etc. We have seen several times the name of Elokim, the name of the Creator. Especially in the first poems, this name is used often. At the beginning, Elokim created. Elokim, and not the Creator or the Merciful. The name of the Merciful is the four-letter name. We have said there are two strengths, Din and Rachamim. You can find this back in the names of the Creator. The name of the Creator is the entity of strengths in the operational system of the universe, where all Din comes from, the severe law. It flows to us, the creation. The entire Din we experience in the name Elokim. Both strengths are functional in creation. In Atzalut, the name Elokim is for 100% good, 100% divine. It is the strength of severity, but not in the form that the creation gets the sucking of unclean forces. By the way, the whole Torah is full with, and they shall not kill, etc. This comes from the name Elokim. Of course, there exists other things that are coming of the merciful Creator. We can see it here too. Nukva has in her large condition white, rachamim, and red, din, as a residue of her small condition. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this. In Malchut too are these two strengths. We have also read there is a large condition in her, and this condition looks at the Nukva in the small condition, where she had 13 leaves. And now, in her large condition, she has 13 qualities of mercy. And this seems to be the creme de la creme, that there is only mercy. Now perhaps we will understand why the name of the Creator at the beginning is named with the name Din. We have seen that the Nukva of Atzalut is first created in her small condition. First, the heaven and the earth were created. Nothing was perfect directly. Do you see what we're learning here? Do you see what we are already learning from the story of the act of creation? We can read in the Talmud, you have to prepare yourself at Friday to have a good Shabbat, so you can eat, sleep, learn, etc. If you do not prepare yourself for the Shabbat, what can you eat at Shabbat? Everything is absolutely spiritual. In the beginning, everything was created in perfect harmony, only it had to be unfolded. The Creator has built this all so ingenious. There must be interaction, combination, and assistance of man himself. Otherwise, there would be no creation. The structure of this development, the 6 days too, shows us a pattern so that the human being should create the same laws, comply with the same system, and correct oneself. Only man can contribute to the gadlut of the Nukva. Everything is perfect, even the Nukva is created perfect, only considering at the creation the Creator has made it in such a way. He concealed her in such a manner that only her head is above, and the rest of her is in the swamp. It is therefore to man, as the only active creature, the highest creature, animal don't have development. Only man, by his wish and willingness, can come in higher agreement, can bring the operational system of the universe to perfection. Everything is perfect, and at the same time for man it is katnut. Malchut never can come to her 10 sfirot, to her fulfillment, without interaction of the human being, from everyone. Can you imagine? This is the spiritual. On the one hand, there is perfection, and on the other hand, you have to work to come to perfection. You can't say this in our world. Here we speak only of perfection, of non-perfection. For a common person in our world, this is understandable. Once a person asked me, and he was learning the common Torah, and I too was studying the common Torah and Talmud, but I experienced this as a condition of katnut, and that person asked me, the Creator gave the Torah to the people of Israel. Did the Creator stay behind with the Torah? This is a question of our world, from someone who wants to understand with his head. I explained to him the Creator doesn't give from his essence. It is the same with a mother who feeds her child with the breast. It doesn't stop. She doesn't give form her essence. She is not her breast. When you look at a cow and you see the place where steak is coming from, do you get lust or feel hungry? In the same way, a man who looks at a woman, he must become unattached of his lusts, otherwise he dirties himself. There's also a malchut of atzalut, of unclean forces, and we can see this in pornography, etc. Opposite the 4 worlds of divinity, of good strengths, there exists the same world of unclean forces. It is not, as many claim, because the world was created in this way, and the human being was put in the middle. The unclean system of the worlds was caused by Adam and Eva, and after them there were others who copied the sin of Adam. We will see that Cain, who killed Abel, was the same sin as from Adam. It was only a different expression of the same source. 4 worlds means an enormous strength. Even in Atzalut exists Atzalut of unclean forces. Can you imagine how high man grips? In Torah we learn there came divine men on earth, Rephaim and Nephilim. Falling men came on earth, and they took women from the earth and children were born. We will learn this later. It is the consequence of the sin of Adam. Question, of course. Question from a course member. How can we divide the good strengths from other forces? Answer. The one strength is intrinsic in the act of creation, and the other one is the opposite. The more you correct yourself, they will disappear out of your view. It is not something you can see. It depends on the amount of your serenity and how you strive, how much you desire. If a man looks downstairs to the earth, he is filled up to one's ears with other forces. He thinks nothing more exists. Another question. Those forces can be very similar. Answer. We will learn this in Zohar. I only give you a few hands out so your knowing will be stilled a little bit, but I do not go further than Zohar explains us yet. It wouldn't help you. You only want to know more. If I already tell you, you only get an intellectual kick. And it's not allowed for me to tell you about something that brings no help, wouldn't have any effect for you. If someone wants to know only for the knowing, I can't speak further. For everything there is the right time. We have to know very carefully. There are two opposite strengths in the world, and they are the product of the sin of Adam. When man uses those two strengths in a good way, he will come to fulfillment, but not when he is obsessed by din. Please refer to the written materials for the drawing. Drawing number 6, 3 stages in a prayer. Until the next lesson, all the best.